Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Whose Internet Is It Anyway? Brought to you by Elon Musk. No, I'm kidding. Welcome to another one of Port Phillip East's Blended Faith Formation seminars. My name's Craig Mitchell. It's great to be here with you, and today I've got two special guests to talk with me about online communities. How do we form good online communities, not just in worship? Our focus today is on blended faith formation. So what are the ways in which we can connect together online as well as offline to form disciples of Jesus Christ? Today I'm very excited to have two guests who play in this space every week. So Reverend Will Nicholas from Geelong, who's been a digital explorer for quite some years now, and you'll hear about some of his exploits as we go. And thank you, Kelly Skilton from Murrumbidgee Uniting Church, who's also the director of Sonda, and you'll find out what Sonda is as we go. So without more ado, let me welcome them, and then you can see who they are and they can introduce themselves. Here we are, we're here. Will Nicholas
Hello.
and Kelly Skilton. Look, I know them both well, and I don't know why I got their names mixed up. I'm coming to you from the land of the Bunurong people, and want to offer my respects to them, recognise their custodianship of the land, and pray for their elders, and also for justice for Indigenous people in this country. Welcome, Will and Kelly. Would you like to say a little bit about yourselves to kick us off?
Definitely. Well, I'm Kelly Skilton, and I am coming to you from bordered country. So I am in the middle between the Bunurong peoples and the Wurundjeri peoples in Murrumbidgee at the moment. And I head up a community called the Sonda Collective, and I also am the youth and young adults pastor at Murrumbidgee Uniting. So I hang around in the digital community and hang around with youth and young adults. And what does it mean to build transformative communities and hang out with people and just be and chat faith? So that's who I am. And yeah, Will, what about you?
And I'm Will Nicholas, also known around the traps as Odd Rev, and I'm coming to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people under the watchful eye of the Creator Spirit Bunjil. I've been playing in this area for I think since I got my first C16 computer and was shoving tapes into things. I've always wondered just how far we could go. And have a dream of being a transhuman one day, being able to leave my body and be a brain in a jar. So that'll be very exciting.
I didn't think we'd go there so early, but thanks for that, Will. As someone who's been getting into pickling, that just piques my interest. So I'm the Presbytery Minister for Church Development in Port Phillip East Presbytery, and I realised that I was studying digital communication 20 years ago through the University of Southern Queensland, and so some of this stuff around digital publishing, learning online, online communities, how media have changed and shaped civilisations over the years. I was actually studying in the early 2000s. So, and I remember being at the Church's National Education Agency when we started doing in-house publishing, and when we got our first Mac computers and were plugging video cameras into them and stuff like that. So, I've been interested in this for a while too. And just let me come back and say again that our interest here, lots of people are doing online worship. We really want to take the broader view on faith formation and discipleship. So we won't be talking about worship as such, but actually about other ways and spaces in which we can connect for community, for faith sharing, and we hope with a missional edge as well. So that's what we're on about today. And we wanted to kick off just for a few minutes by saying, there are lots of different online communities. Some of us remember bulletin boards. I'm going to have trouble with my words this morning. Bulletin boards. And email groups. So I remember starting a youth multimedia email group. Again, Will, you've been on that. You were on that for a while. That's got to be more than 20 years ago or something when it first started. And today, of course, we have Facebook, Messenger, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok. I could go on and on, etc. But I want to start with a question about questions. So when you put the words online and communities together, what questions do you start to ask? What do you think about? What do you wonder about?
Yeah, I know for me, one big thing that people talk about is how it's not real. Like, we're not real. And so, a question that comes to me is that a lot of the work that we do, we connect with people when they're in their homes. We're invited into someone's most real place. And so, my question is, like, what's real? What do we mean when we talk about real? What's vulnerability? Like, so my questions are, when we're talking about community, what's community? Where's community? Who's community? Where's vulnerability? So those are the questions that really get brought up for me.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
who decides that is the question too, isn't it? So do you
Yeah.
decide? Do you decide if I'm having a real experience here? Because I think I am. I'm pretty sure I'm really here.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, feels like it.
Yeah, we're good.
I found that same phenomenon. I've been playing World of Warcraft since it first started in the early 2000s, back in the vanilla days, and I've made friends on there in other countries and other parts of the world that I've never physically met, and yet I've laughed with them, I've cried with them, I've grieved with them. We've conducted services of worship online. We've done rites of passage, all with our avatars inside World of Warcraft, and those relationships are as real to me as some of them more real to me than the relationships that I might have in real life. So there's something that is different, but just as authentic in the kinds of connections and relationships we can make in an online space.
Thank you. That's very true. For me, a question would be, it's along the lines that when we're face to face, we're seeing each other in that moment, and that's very special and important. But when we're in the online world, we've got both synchronous, which is same time, and asynchronous, which is different times. So you can actually have an immediate conversation, but also an ongoing one. And so when people talk about the internet being fast and everything, I think, well, actually, it gives me time for some considered opinions too.
Yep.
And I've been in a conversation this week about decolonising theological education, which required me to go away and do some thinking. So sometimes I don't want to look like an idiot, so I want to think about a response and go away and do some work and come back. So for me, that actually gives a depth, not just to community, but I want to say to learning.
Yeah. That question of fastness and slowness is fascinating, because I actually, and also I love this term. A question that arises for me is, we talk about face to face, but right now at the moment, our faces are actually more two faced than they would be if we were actually sitting in a physical location. And not only am I face to face with you, but as I'm talking at the moment, I'm also face to face with myself. So I'm aware of what signals and body language and things that I'm giving off. So there's an entirely different dynamic in the virtual space. But that doesn't make it a less effective one. I guess that's the question I would ask is, for those who feel less at home in the digital space, what are the different things that actually bump you out or cause you to become less immersed or less engaged, and reflecting on some of those things can actually help us to say, okay, what software, what affordances, what structure of desk do we need to assist us to actually feel like we can be more connected in that space.
That's great. So folks, we're going to dive in. What we have for you this morning. Gee, I must need another coffee or something. What we're going to have for you this morning is we want to walk you through some online platforms and talk a bit about how and why we've used them. I'm going to start by showing you 3 platforms that are, I guess, similar and different. And my focus has been around learning communities. So how do we gather people easily to learn together? And it's Will and Kelly have focused on faith formation as well, but in very different ways. And so in the second half, they'll be focusing on some online communities that they've been doing. And their stuff's fantastic, and I can't wait to show it to you. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to dive in and show you three different platforms, and it's going to be quick. What we've got in the chat is you can ask questions. We're going to pause at different points and answer them.
Yeah.
We can't answer them all, but we'll do our best. And then at the end, we've got a bit of a general conversation space as well. We do want to do some how-to today, but we can't give you a simple tutorial on everything, so it'll be a bit of an overview, but you can certainly back to us later and ask questions. So I'm going to
100%.
I'm going to show you some pictures first of a thing called spatial chat. So if Kelly or Will wants to type in spatial.chat into the comments, that'd be great. So spatial chat, so some of these platforms, basically they allow you to do stuff for free, because they then want you to sign up and spend some money. So I came across spatial chat some time ago, late last year when I was preparing for a conference. And so spatial.chat, and what it is, it's a three-dimensional space where you can meet up with people. I'll show you the actual space in a moment. Right now I'm just showing you some screenshots. This is like a 3D cafe. We're going to show you spatial chat so you get the idea. So we're going to cross to a live screen. Let's see if this gets us what we want. So each of us have got an avatar in here. You'll see a little green thing with my face. That's actually my live video feed. So at home I'm in front of a green screen, and so it's showing the green screen. There's Will moving around me, and Kelly's over in the other lounge. We can go and join Kelly. Now the great thing about this is it's live, it's interactive, it uses the video from your computer, so through your browser, so there's no third-party app like Zoom or whatever. But the neat thing is that you only hear the people sitting near you. So we can come into this space and say, okay, it could be informal, like wander around, sit down and chat to people. I'm just going to zoom out a bit. It can be wander around, sit down and chat to people, or you can say, okay, go to a table, find a group and talk to them. And I can go, sorry, I moved the wrong window. Yes, so we've got our mics turned off just so that we don't get audio wacky stuff in Zoom. What's happening again, Judy? It's happening again, is it?
No, that was from the last time.
Okay.
So we are all fixed.
So if I go to the lounge down the bottom here, and Kelly stayed up there, she couldn't hear Will and I chatting. And likewise, if someone came and sat next to Kelly, they wouldn't hear her chatting. So I've used this for conversation spaces at different groups. I've also used it as a late night cafe at an event that I'll show you soon, where people could just come in, sit down and chat to people. In each space, you can add stuff. So you can add images, you can add animated GIFs. So if I go back up here, I'll put some beers on the table. Okay. You can add a video, you can add a whiteboard, you can add text, etc. You can add Google Docs. So you'll see those things down there. And over on the right-hand side, there's a chat window where I've got my face in front of it here. Let me move my face out of the way. There's a chat window where I can talk to the room or talk directly to people in a written chat. So I can say, hey Kelly, come and meet me over here. Thanks Will for adding a little animated GIF. And I can also broadcast to the whole room. So down the bottom there's a megaphone where I can say, hello everybody, the drinks are on me, or whatever. It's really neat. As I said, yes, so in response to what Wendy said, like you could do Cafe Church in here, absolutely. But as well, for me, it's a kind of a small group space, I guess. Got the idea? Okay, we're going to do another one. Like that was very quick. You'll get to ask questions in a moment, but I've got a couple more to do before 10:30. Oh, the whiteboard, Janine. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I've tried to show a little video locally, and I know that you only get the audio there, but I'm not sure with the whiteboard. We'd have to try that out. Okay, we've got some suggestions that are coming in. That's great. So spatial.chat, you get 25 people for free, and you can have a couple of rooms. Okay, so beyond that, you've got to pay. So let's go to Kiko Chat next. So I'm going to change windows. So I was introduced to Kiko Chat by Amelia Coe Butler. Kiko Chat is a shell for Zoom. So you use this alongside Zoom. Oh, thanks for putting that in, Kelly. And so
You're welcome.
Last year, we ran a national conference called Songwrite. We had 40 people in at least five different locations across several time zones, and we used this shell for Zoom. So what it does basically is, and I'll show you in a second, it gives you a bunch of conference rooms that you can move between, and each time you go into one, you can open a Zoom chat just with the people in that Zoom chat, not a Zoom chat, a Zoom chat just for the people in that room. So we're going to go to Kiko Chat now, where Will and Kelly are already here with me. Now what you've got here is on the left, you'll see a bunch of different rooms, and I'll talk about those in a moment. On the right, you'll see a picture and then something below it. So our foyer, and there's a picture of the foyer, is this thing called a gathering place. So up on the left, you'll see gathering place, and there are 3 pictures, which means that I've disappeared. Anyway, myself, Kelly and Will are in that room. So being in this room, if I clicked join video, then if any 3 of us clicked join video, we would be in a Zoom chat just for the people in that room. And down the bottom, we've got a notice board. So I put some notices about the songwriter thing. Here's where different people are going to be running their songwriter sessions. Here are some resources. Introduce yourself. Okay? So we had different sessions in different rooms, and each room I set up with a photo. So this is the lounge. So this was a songwriters conference. So we wanted places where people can connect up, talk to each other, write music, chat, etc. So the lounge, the thing down here is not a notepad, it's a Padlet, which is another thing, padlet.com, Padlet.com, where people could say, so I've added this, guitarist needs vocalist. Craig writes and plays guitar but needs a singer to help him out. Someone else would say, I can help with scoring music, I'm a keyboard player, talk to me, etc., etc. So that was a live thing where you could add a Padlet and say, need pianist. So anybody could add that, and it goes in the Padlet. So we set up some other rooms where people could say, look, join me on the veranda and let's write some music. Again, there's just a notepad at the bottom that people can write on. Like I said, each of these becomes their own Zoom room. When you leave the room, you leave the Zoom and go to another Zoom room. We had a riverbed, a bit slow to load. So if people wanted to sit outdoors, and then we had some band rooms. So okay, people have been talking there about things. Oh, Dorian mode. Look at that. I met Dorian mode once. Sorry. So we had some band rooms, recording studio. We had the pub. People just want to go and chat. You don't want to write music. And I'm nearly finished this bit of the tour, and then Kelly, who was part of the conference, is going to say a little bit about her experience of it.
Yeah.
Just give me
and
a
then
second.
I can touch on Judy's question.
We're nearly there. So yes, Judy, this is better. I'll tell you why. We'll tell you why in a second. Well, I'll talk about what. So in this cafe chat, in this cafe room, I had put spatial chat, so people could go to the 3D cafe by going to there. They could join the spatial chat space, and they were in that 3D cafe that we were before. We created a prayer room where if people just wanted to sit and chill, there's some ambient music that they can play. So there's just ambient music that loops there. And then we had a room for people from different states. So I've also got a bunch. I can also message people. People can message each other. I've got admin controls that let me send notifications, tell people to come back to the main thing, assign people, whatever. So one of the main things with this is, I guess you're creating an environment. So Kelly, you might want to talk about your experience of the environment and moving around and how this is different from Zoom breakout rooms. Is that okay?
It's different from the breakout room functions in Zoom because we're not only locked to just a Zoom room function. You can put any method into each of these different subheadings. So as Craig put there, we did have one where we went to spatial chat. We could sit in a cafe, or you can link it to a music space so people can jump in and go to music, or we could link it to a Padlet. And so what Kiko Chat does is it allows us to enter into a conference. And so when we jump in, it's like when you jump into a conference website page, there's still this fact that you're on a website. But here, it's like you jump in, you can see everyone's little avatar, you can see their little picture, and you are entering into the conference. And then you can see where everyone is. You're like, oh, they're over in that room. Oh, it's like... my favorite one was I went and sat in the cafe, and they won't mind. Amelia Co-Butler was there, and she saw me, and she just like huddled over to me, and she's like, "How are you going? What's life like?" And like it was as if we were actually in a conference, like offline, and so it was really lovely, and so it allows us to have that interaction still. So very different to Zoom, still allows that personability. And allows us to do it interstate. I haven't seen Amelia Co-Butler in like 10 years, so it was really lovely.
For me, the visual thing, like I had fun creating the rooms and putting the backgrounds in, and yes, Chris, I do think it feels more immersive. Like you do end up in a Zoom room. Let's be clear about that. You end up in a Zoom room with people, so it's still Zoom, but seeing the room, seeing who's in the rooms, being able to move myself around, being able to call people back together, having the notepad and the other tools, felt much more like being at an event where I had some control and agency over what I did, I guess. And I should say too that the first night we just started on Zoom because we wanted people to start somewhere they were familiar, and so we just gave them a Zoom link. They came into Zoom. And at the end, we said, okay, tomorrow morning, we're going to take you into this space. Let's show it to you. And if you want to come and join in tonight, we'll get you in there. Then we did that at the end of the night, and people knew how to get in. We had a few people come the next morning, and so there were fewer people to get online, but that seemed to work fine. I'm just going to go back to So this is called wonder.me. I didn't say about Kiko Chat that it's a pretty small company, I guess. There is a cost per user per minute, and we ran this event for 40 people all Friday night, all day Saturday, and it cost $175. So it was about $4.50 per person for the online hosting, which I considered to be really good value. Okay. This is called wonder.me. It used to look a bit different. They've just gone through an upgrade thing. It looks a bit like spatial chat, but it's two-dimensional. It's got a bunch of different rooms. I suspect at some point it'll cost money for add-ons or something. Kelly's in there at the moment. So basically, again, like spatial chat, this uses your web browser and camera. There's no there's no extra app like Zoom. That's now I'm there. So the way this works is, I'll make mine a bit bigger here. So Kelly, your video's not on, obviously. So I'm using two screens. That's why I'm looking over there. So the way this works is that Kelly and I have joined the same room, and when we do that, our live video feeds come up the top, and we can talk to each other. Okay. And if I leave the room, go to another room. Let's go to group 4. Let's zoom out a bit. Then. Here comes Will. Then I'm in a video chat with the other people in that room. So whichever room I go to, I'm in a video chat with the people in that room. And unlike Kiko Chat, the video is right at the top here. Okay, so I'll appear and disappear. So Will, if you go to another room now, then you'll disappear from my video. And then Kelly, if you come down to group 4, so then Kelly's video comes up the top. So we can say to everyone, look, come in the Start Here room and then go to different rooms, and you'll be in a video chat just with the people there. And what you'll see down the bottom is, again, so the tools that I've got 2 tools, only 2, screen share, but Miro board. And the thing about the Miro board is Miro is a website that gives you a bunch of different kind of whiteboard planning tools, all kinds of stuff like that. And in this case, I've set it up. I've chosen a mind map tool. So I've got basically a whiteboard mind map where, as a facilitator, I can type stuff in as people talk about it. I can let everybody do this, but that's running off my free Miro account. And if we went to Miro, which is back here, you'll see, I hope, that they've got lots and lots of different boards that I could choose from in that room. You'll see that these all say see all, so there's plenty more. So basically I can have a board that can be used, and I can choose it and I can run it, or other people can run it, and it becomes an interactive thing. We can get rid of it.
One of the questions Janine has put in there, with the admin tool on the Wonder app, can the admin drag people around?
Janine, I don't know. So Wonder changed. I don't seem to be able to do that. Do I want to? I'm not sure.
Get into a space like this and you go, okay, what's possible? And actually, if you talk to a number of the game designers and game players and online people that I like to hang out with, their question is, how do I break it? Because once you know how to break something, you actually worked out everything it can possibly do. And so it's a really interesting approach that often comes up with these kind of things is, just how far can I push this? And it's really about playing. And I find a lot of people are afraid of breaking things online. Don't worry about that. Just have a go. You can always reset and come back and start again. So it's a playful space.
I think one of the things for me, both with Spatial Chat and Wonder, is that people get it. They go, oh, it's a room. It's got tables. I can move around different tables, which is hard to... I don't think you get Zoom as easily, if you like. You see there are some kind of traditional teaching tools, which again people go, okay, I know what a whiteboard is. I know what Post-it notes are. I get that idea. So while you're in the digital space, you're also... doing some familiar kinds of activities, which isn't to say you can't mix it up, but people kind of get where they are. The other thing I was going to say with Spatial Chat is I haven't tried the new Theaterette, but with the early Theaterette, what happened was that there'd be someone up on the stage, right, and they're broadcasting so you can hear them, but when you're sitting next to someone in the back row, you can chat to the person in the back row, which is what you do at a conference anyway. So you don't hear everyone in the auditorium, but I could sit next to Will in the back row and we can make jokes and, not do that. But you could also message other people in the room and say, hey, Kelly, can we meet for coffee later? And people get the idea. And again, both of those two use your... It all happens in the browser. There's no Zoom or anything. You just click and you're in. So, Kathy, we could do some more specific training. If people are interested
100%.
in a walkthrough, okay, let's get you in, etc. We can certainly do some of that. And Kiko Chat does require a bit more understanding. I didn't show you the admin tools for that.
Janine, the question that you've written again, how do these apps work if people don't have cameras on? That brings up more of a question around accessibility. And so one big thing that I always look at is that it's an as well as rather than an instead of. So this allows our accessibility to go further in order to reach people who need more accessibility into community. And to be honest, as Will and I will go into further, like our online community, we started before COVID. So we got to answer that question way before COVID started. And our COVID scenario has actually just exacerbated the need of what does accessibility actually look like. And so some communities just mean that it might just be a photo rather than a video. What does it mean if they need to dial in like Zoom, or it might just mean that their video access comes differently. And so it just depends on each app. So it might be different, and it's just a matter of looking at each program, seeing how it works, and then figuring out how that best would work for each community and the accessibility that each community needs and what will work best for you.
Yeah, people asking some good questions about access. You can have public or private links. You can have password. People can be required to sign up for things. So, like any social media, you manage the space.
Craig, I was keen to answer Chris's question about how we keep it safe. We're going to talk about safety a little bit later on, but what I love about these platforms you've just showed us, Craig, is that some real world actions for dealing with creepiness can actually be used. So, for example, a person sidles up to you and starts being uncomfortable, you just move away, just like you might do if you were at any kind of event. And so you've got some ways to be able to de-escalate situations and do that. And so one of the things that I think is really, really good in innovations in the online space that's happening is that people are beginning to think and program for how do we deal with awkward or difficult situations in real life. How can we actually then create functions and affordances inside the virtual space that will allow similar kinds of ways to de-escalate or move away? And then, of course, you can always, raise a complaint or let somebody know that something uncomfortable is happening.
Yes.
Whereas in Zoom, you're put in a breakout room, you can't move away. You're stuck.
You can't talk to the person who put you in there either.
You're stuck.
That's right. So you're low. So this is safer than Zoom.
Yep. So you can raise a hand. You can make a sign. It's worth telling direct messaging people. Showing people how they can message the host, because they can do that in the space, and that gives them something. Or they can move themselves over to you and say that person's being creepy. Can you drag them out? And you go, I'll see if I can.
100%.
I like too that you could put emojis up. Yeah, so you could do a cry emoji. The whole world would see you were crying inside that space. Then that would attract attention as well.
You could put up a GIF that said "Run away, run away" or something.
That's right.
Yep.
Beam me up, Scotty. So, folks, we're going to move on to the stuff that Will and Kelly are going to show us.
Will and I literally look like this on screen every Monday night at 8 p.m. And so we are going to giggle because we've got to not go back into our broadcasting mode because...
Oh,
hello.
I'm having that trouble. G'day, Kelly. How are we doing today?
We're going well.
Kelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we do for Odd Sonder? That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So Will and I actually run an online community every Monday night at 8 p.m. I will pop a link just in a moment in the chat. So we run a community on a platform called Twitch, which Twitch is YouTube for our gaming community. We run it there because that is where our community best engages and meets together, as well as we have a community place, like a hub, I suppose, a gathering point that also meet together on Discord. I've also created a link if you guys want to come in and check that out. I've got the links there, so I'll pop them in the chat in just a moment. But we're going to explore those spaces as other gathering options for what online community can be. Pretty much on a Monday night, Will and I spend like an hour engaging community. We have maybe about anywhere from like 7 to 15 people in chat, communicating with us, talking like, man, we spend like 40 minutes talking about the scripture reading from the night before. And I don't know about you, but we don't get that opportunity in a 9, 10 a.m. Sunday morning worship ever. So it is deeply engaging, deeply impactful and explorative.
And it's not just us talking. Whilst we're kind of hosting the event, we're in the front, and our task is to try and draw that community together. We've got this stream of chat that has just been really exciting in the last couple of months to see that people are coming along and asking their questions. And only a couple of weeks ago, because of tags, so hashtags, you will have heard of hashtags from Twitter. We use these tags, and somebody followed the tags for Christian discipleship to our feed, and came in specifically to ask us a question about parables, which we were then able to answer as a question without notice in the following week they came back for. And so
Yeah.
there's our input and the hosts and the guests that we bring on, but then there's this community of people who are actually engaged in being able to, in real time, pass notes to the presenter on the stage so they can actually affect where the broadcast goes.
Totally. And Wendy, I love that. Who's doing this for the adult population? 8 p.m. Monday nights. It is not limited. So we do this for youth and young adults. But by all means, these questions, I don't believe are limited just to our youth and young adults community. Come in and engage with us at 8 p.m. No offense, Will. Will's old.
I think I'm old. Yep, that's right.
Yeah,
so look, if you can get there, you can be there. That's basically our philosophy is, and really it's similar to all these other ones we just showed. You can follow that link that will take you straight there. That's in the chat at the moment. You can see all of the videos that we've done. We highlight the original videos only stay there for about 2 weeks, but our highlights stay there forever. So, yep, everyone's welcome. Yeah. Wendy, love to see you there. Definitely. Come along. In fact, even if you're not interested in watching, come along. If you're on today, just go to that link and make an account. Click follow, because we just want your follows, because that way we get more goodies from Twitch. We can actually do more things. So so that's very exciting as well.
So what we might do is I might see if Craig can even just flip over to our Twitch feed, just so people can look and see what the interface looks like, and that way we can have a squiz. Thanks, Chris. Chris has been online with us for Odd Sonder, as well as jumped into our Discord community. So this is what our Sonder Cloud looks like.
Yeah, I'm just
when you jump
things
on.
the way I want them.
That's okay.
Which
this does lead into a point, and I will address this really quickly. So, Will, I'm going to speak on behalf of you. I'm so sorry because you're like right here. Actually, no, I'm not. Will, do you want to talk about vulnerability when it comes to digital space?
I reckon. Can I just suggest do a quick show first? Is that
Let's
right?
do a walk around first.
Okay.
Yeah, then we can talk about that.
Might be a bit much going on.
All right. Okay. So when you jump on, it looks really overwhelming just because it's a little bit of a different setup. But the last video that was played sits at the top. And so that was myself and Will on Monday night. So when you click home, it will have it just at the bottom. And then all of our videos are just along there. That's, so we have it there. You can also put an about little section. And so we share who we are. So we're an online expression of faith where your questions can be, I can't read. It's very small, but that's okay. You can feel free to go explore and read that. While you're there, give us a follow. You can have a schedule. So our schedule is very limited because a lot of what we do comes in and out throughout the week, but 2 things are locked in. We do Odd Sonder 8 p.m. on Monday nights, as well as a thing called Zombie Church on Wednesday nights. And then there's another link called Videos. And in Videos, it takes you, so videos, Twitch is a space where when you do a video, it keeps it for 2 weeks unless you highlight that video. Now, highlighting is great. You can keep a specific portion of a video and highlight it. So a great example was Will and I did a Lego competition, and halfway through the competition I stole one of Will's Lego pieces and I kept it for myself, and it became known. So one of our followers, one of our peeps, our crew, our community, they went and they highlighted that video, and so they just highlighted 30 seconds and they posted it for us, and it just became this funny ongoing joke. It's like, Kelly, where's my grey piece? And I'm like, it's my grey piece now. And so it just became this hilarious joke within our community. So it was really good. And so the community can then participate in that space as well. Will, was there anything that you wanted to share on it?
Yeah, look, one of the things that's really I love about it as a user is that it's actually really easy to do the highlighting afterwards. It's really just drag and click, so there's no post-editing. I can cut off parts at the beginning. I can grab any part halfway through. And so being a host for Twitch, It means that I don't have to go to a third party program to do that editing. So after an Odd Sonder on a Monday night, I'll go straight in and actually just take off the timer on the beginning and capture everything from the beginning to the end in a highlight, and then just go through as we're doing the broadcast. If something comes up and it's useful, I just write down the timestamp and go straight back to the timestamp and put that in. So as a creative user, it makes doing all that stuff really easy and really quickly. And I mean, so often when we produce content, we'll do our live and then have to edit it later, and we forget to do that, or it takes time. But the simplicity of Twitch means it can be done so quickly.
Totally.
I'm just playing with getting you on screen while you're doing that, so sorry about that.
Oh yeah, we're watching. It's fantastic. It's good.
I got a bit confused. Anyway,
I think that's the area.
Can we play a bit of this video? It's great.
Yeah, sure. Press play. It's a highlights video. So we had our 1 year birthday. We celebrated 1 year of being on our Odd Sonder. So I made a highlights reel. So yeah. So you can watch without joining Twitch, but you cannot follow. It's actually just our regular stream.
Yep. So that's one of the good things about Twitch is you can zoom to the part you want to look at. I think of all the ones that I've seen, no one has improved. We have improved 1,000% since we started.
I would totally accept the most improved little trophy award.
Yep, I think so.
Everyone's like, oh, that's just a participation award. I'm like, oh, no. Oh, yours is a Funko Pop?
It's Super Stan. Woo-hoo. Gardening and growing and being fruitful on the lands of the Wathaurong people under the watchful eye of Bunjil, the creator spirit.
And I am on the Bunurong land. So
I'm going to throw it back to Amanda. Amanda, where are you broadcasting from?
While you're having a look, if people are just tuning in, remember that this place is an open podcast where we hang out.
Major communities.
One of the things you'll notice if you see behind art is there's all that chat that's happening behind Kelly and I's screen at the moment, and that's all of the people engaging. You can't read it, but you can see their colourful names popping up, and they're actually engaged in the Twitch feed.
Yeah, and so that's all happening. So so that's probably a good rundown of Twitch, but we might need to jump into Discord quickly, because this is just one space where we do a lot of faith formation and faith formative work, and this is just something that we do synchronously, but it gets paused for asynchronous moments. So we have maybe the 5 to 15 people that connect with us there and then, but then throughout the week we come back and we have maybe like anywhere between 40 to 70 people who've engaged with that community throughout the week. And Will and I are constantly shocked. We're like, what is going on? Who are these people? And then we go and see our Discord server or our messages, or we connect with people throughout the week at our church communities or just in a random community. Like, people up in Sydney are engaging in this community. And then we realize that actually asynchronous communities are just as valid and just as important and just as transformative as our synchronous communities. And so we need to lean into that power of transformation there too.
Inside Discord, we've got all of these different channels, and some of the channels you can use for voice and video chat. Some of the channels you can use to direct stream what's happening on your computer right now, so you can show somebody something that they're interested in, like a bit of a share screen. You can also have all of these text channels. So up the top here, you're looking at the Discord server screen at the moment. You can see that there is a channel for prayer requests. There's a channel for memes. There's even a channel for those people who love their Wordles to put them up there and not have anybody get cranky with them for putting their Wordles out in a local place. So what we've tried to do is to try and create a liminal playground space for people to be able to come in at their leisure and to post things. It's the evolution of the old posting board.
Yeah. Do you want to share a bit more what a liminal space is?
Liminal space. Yeah, I just used a word, didn't I? So they're on the edge. They're on the limits of our existence, but sometimes they're the most important spaces. They're the water cooler spaces, the spaces
Yeah. Or
where
our morning
we
tea at
accidentally
Sunday
meet
morning.
somebody in the corridor and say, "Hey, by the way, I was thinking this." Um, they're the hangout spaces, and often what happens in online spaces is that our spaces are very intentional. We'll show up to Zoom because we've got a meeting, we do our business, and we log off. There's really not any space to say, hey, and if we do want to do that, then what we've got to say is, oh, can you hang back after this? And so it once again becomes another intentional meeting. There's
Yeah.
something about community that grows and thrives in the spaces that are accidental. What's the
Yeah.
quote? Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, by John Lennon. This
Mm.
idea that the accidental bump-ins to people can actually be the biggest moments or the most important moments of life, and we're trying to facilitate that by using this Discord space.
Absolutely.
Um,
And the other big thing about Discord, why we went to this Discord space. So we created this long before COVID in order to create a community where particularly our gaming community could have a space that they could feel they could gather and belong at all times. And so we could jump on at this at 10 p.m. at night and someone's like hanging around in here. Or 9 a.m. in the morning, which would be odd if someone was here at 9 a.m. for us. But this space people can come and be. And we created this here because it allowed a locked, safe community that Craig has access to these channels because we have, as admin, been able to give him access to these channels. So this allows us to have real intention of making sure there are proper leadership training for particular leaders to have spaces. If you see on the right-hand side of the screen, some of the names are in different colors because that says whether they're over 18, under 18, whether they're a leader, whether they're a bot. So we have bots. So like sometimes if you just type in their music bot, it will then start playing music, or like we got a Jesus bot, like just because that's funny. And things like that. So we know who our over 18s and under 18s are. And so if we come in there and we see that there is an orange person in a room, we know that we need to make sure that there are 2 leaders in that room as well. And so it actually allows us to create a really safe environment that, to be honest, exceeds our safety that we could have in an offline event, because all of this stuff is recorded, all of this stuff is kept up to date. We actually can maintain that level of safety at a much higher rate than we could for our vulnerable peoples when we're in an open space, in an open room. So, yeah.
So you can see on the left-hand side, there's the list of the channels, and about halfway down there's the general chat. You can see that I've appeared in that chat, in that space. That allows me to just sort of, if I'm writing doing a paper or playing a game or at my computer, I could just go and sit in that space, and somebody else might come along and see that I'm sitting there, and they could actually join me, and so suddenly they would be in that space as well. If that general chat started to get full of people, then we could say, hey, why don't you and I head down to game group 1? And so you can see I've just moved from there just by dragging myself down into game group 1, so I can then have my conversation with that person. Our live studio, join the live whenever. We've labelled that in such a way to know that if you go into that room, it's highly likely that it's being streamed to Twitch. So your voice is not just going to be in this space, but actually broadcasting out onto Twitch. And so people can just come into that space and hang out and talk to us live while we're on Twitch broadcasting, playing a game. So lots of functionality, lots of agency, lots of freedom. So.
Yeah. And I will say, Janine, a lot of those people who are online on the right-hand side, so the ones that aren't faded, this is also that thing that Will was mentioning about liminal space. So these people are at their computers, and so they have said that they're online, but they might not be engaging on this Discord platform. But if we then jump in, so a great example was Will and I were playing a game of D&D, and Will accidentally broadcasted it to the Sonder page rather than his personal page, which is so fine. But then what happened was, because all these people were online, they all got a notification that Sonder was on, and instantly we had 9 people tune in. And we were like, what? They were like, hello. And they were like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, we're playing a game of D&D. We're so sorry. We're not supposed to be here. And they were like, can we watch? And we're like, come across to Will's personal channel. So sorry, goodbye. It was so funny. We're like, oh. And so this is the power of that liminal space, to create those water cooler conversations by accident, because they're here and they're active, but we don't see them because we're not here. So what does it mean to be more present in our online reality is the question that we really want to play with.
And especially in the gaming space, one of the things I just wanted to flag was, if you have a look down that list of red there, about halfway down, you'll see Praxis. Now, Praxis is my son who lives in Tasmania, and he is currently playing Medal, which means that I've got an idea of what game he's playing. And if I wanted to play that game with him, I could send him a message saying, hey, I'm keen to play. Can I multiplayer? And I could get an invitation to join in there. So it kind of allows us to give information to people about what we're doing, whether we can be connected to, joined, interrupted, engaged, just like we might do if we were walking around a physical building.
Can I ask a couple of questions? One is just to talk a bit more about some of the kinds of experiences that you've offered. So, I mean, you haven't mentioned Zombie Church yet, but also, Kelly, I mean, you said to me that you do an online Bible study and people engage, but people engage more in faith conversation when it's informal. You know, so I'm just interested for you to hear you say a bit about the kinds of interactions that you're having online with people where you see that faith is being formed.
Sure, I'll start with that and then I'll head over to Will. You can chat more about Zombie Church. So I do a lot of online Bible study, and a lot of the people who connect in with our community, particularly with Odd Sonder, but also with the Sonder Collective in general, a lot of the people have, I suppose, been a part of church communities and have stepped away in some form or another. And are now exploring, what does that mean for their faith? What does that mean for Jesus in their life? And so they're seeking a safe place to come and explore that. And it sounds really jarring for us to hear that, but a giant building is not a safe place. And a giant building that has been built with power and prosperity is not a safe place for them to feel that they can come to. But where a safe place is in their comfort of their own home, where they can opt to turn off the screen when they feel they can't participate anymore. And so to run an online Bible study actually becomes a deeply safe place where they can present who they are in all their authenticity and vulnerability, and not feel so overwhelmed that they're giving too much that they cannot be authentically who they are, or pushing at entering into the God space and challenging who faith and who God is within their own life. And so it actually allows Spirit to do more of Spirit's work. And so our faith conversations, like Will and I have been having such deep, incredible conversations. And even on Monday night, someone shared with us that this is the first time in 8 years that they have been able to come back to faith conversations, which, to be honest, Will and I, we were having a hard time. And so that was so transformative even for us, but to hear about that transformation for them was just beautiful. So, so I suppose that really touches on that conversation that you were sharing, Craig. What is this vulnerability that we actually allow ourselves to bring us into in online communities that we actually don't think about? There's power in this space. It's transformative. It's experimental. It's limitlessness. Where can we go with it? And a great example of that is Zombie Church. So
well, it's not just young people either. Like, so like exes like me often have found themselves not feeling comfortable or well connected to the spaces that we have as church. And not only that, but lifestyle actually has a major impact on that. And so, like, I run a Bible study on Tuesday nights for mostly people in the 40 to 55-year-old category. And it's fantastic for them because they don't have to go out. They can be cooking dinner at the same time. They can be present to their families while their Bible study is on. And so there's in terms of lifestyle, to be able to have a 1 hour discipleship session where we're actually exploring and unpacking the gospel in the presence of your own home, that actually allows you to not have to try and work out, well, what am I going to do with the kids? What am I going to do with that? And evenings are a rush for families. So being able to be able to compromise on that space is really, really helpful. So that's that. But look, Zombie Church is a fascinating, evolving thing. I was playing a game on Steam called 7 Days to Die with some friends who are part of various churches. And we were exploring this post-apocalyptic world full of zombies, trying to survive. And we came across an old derelict church that was inside the world. Now, 7 Days to Die is an engine like a game engine like Minecraft, so you can build anything, do anything, change anything, and you make the world your own. We decided to restore this church. In the midst of it, one of the players said, "Wouldn't this be a great idea for a community?" And so we decided to actually form Zombie Church and start streaming it on Twitch. So it now has 6 regular members and a number of adherents that pop in and out. Our capacity is 8. But what's amazing is that on Wednesday nights when we have Zombie Church from 7:30, we get people popping into the Twitch the same way as they do for Odd Sonda, and they are contributing and participating by commenting on what's happening. And for them, it's a bit like a reality TV show where these people are actually trying to survive and build and connect with each other. In the midst of that, we have these liminal conversations about life, death, the universe, resurrection, all of the different things. In fact, we had to make a decision on one day to actually repurpose the wooden pews that were actually inside the Zombie Church. And so because that was a controversial conversation, we had to form a bit of a council to discuss which pews we'd remove and which ones we wanted to preserve. So it was a fascinating experience. As well as that, 7 Days to Die then developed Twitch integration, which means that the audience members, the people who are chatting in Twitch, have the capacity to affect what happens in the world. They can drop zombies on us. They can provide us with supply packages. They can help us. They can hinder us. And so they gain points as they chat, and they actually learn, where people are and how they want to help or hinder us as they go. So that brings in a real Hunger Games kind of quality to the experience as well. Facing adversity together is one of the things that builds community. And so we're creating virtual adversity that we face together as a community, and that allows us to connect and grow. So, yeah.
100%. And I just want to touch on that, Will, because Chris has just commented in here. It was amazing how much the lectionary readings connect with the game, the themes of death, resurrection, bodies. And one of the other things was touching on a moment, like one moment in the game, out of nowhere, 2 bears came and attacked in the community. And so Will is like, that reminds me of this random story in Alive with Elisha and the 2 bears, and like went off on this tangent talking about Elisha, and so it's just hilarious. I think sometimes we want to control so much of what happens with faith formation that we forget a lot of what happens with faith formation is allowing the Spirit to move and letting our lived reality be the faith formation, and just being attuned to where God is moving in that, which takes a lot of us resting in just letting God move. So we understand that, it's hard, but it's being faithful, which that's a lot of Christianese in there. So I'm sorry, but yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's where that vulnerability conversation you wanted to talk about before comes up, Kelly. So, Craig, if it's all right, we might have that conversation now, because it's costly. It's really, really costly to put yourself into this space that we can't control. The internet could drop off. As we've seen, frames could go where we don't want them to go.
Sound could double up.
Sound could double up. Things could happen. And so what we've got to do is just keep calm and keep going. And that's what Kelly and I have learned over the last couple of years. One of the things that happened about 4 months, maybe even 2 months into this process, is that we actually got a couple of people volunteered to be producers. So they sit behind everything, and they run either Ecamm or OBS or XSplit, and they make all of the stage stuff happen, and they can talk to us through our headsets, and the broadcast can't hear them, so we get advice from them about time and space and that kind of stuff. So those things were really, really helpful. But that vulnerability, I have to say, I still, that sense of panic that things are not going to work still exists. But there's a sense of just trusting and recognizing that what we're offering is the best that we can do. And the forgiveness that comes from the audience, the willingness to go, look, we're just happy you're here. And in fact, the things that don't work are often the things that become the most teachable moments, the biggest areas for discipleship and growth. And so we've learnt just to roll with those things, and to actually say, okay, what is God saying to us now through this experience of being here in this place?
Yeah, and I think a great example, and Wendy, mentioned just before that it's really hard, particularly teaching online presence with our older communities, because of what we have said, what works and what doesn't work. And when we say that something doesn't work, it's because there's a brokenness in a system. But when it comes to the internet and online communities, just because there's a bit of lag doesn't mean it's not working. And so, but it appears like it's not working. And so a great example would be, one time we ran Odd Sonder, it stopped streaming 7 times. And we cut in and out 7 times. And you'd think that meant the 10, 15 people that were there with us that night would have just given up watching. No, they stayed for all 7 times, because the internet, it's a facet of weird, wobbly, whiny thing. You can't control it. Mm-hmm. And so this idea that we then could control it just seems odd. And I think it's, what does it mean to educate from a space of no control, but then also recognizing that that is also such a theological concept in itself. We are deeply supposed to be bound by grace anyway. And so when your faith formation, your online communities come from a place of grace, then what does that mean when your faith expression, your faith formation, and your online communities are built from grace? Your communities hang around and wait, because they know you don't have an internet lab under your church that you've stuffed up. That's not you.
Not only that, but their expectation builds. They're left with a cliffhanger. Will Kellyanne will return? What's going to happen next? It kind of occurs. And one of the beautiful things about Twitch is that if the stream is interrupted, but there are people in the chat, they can continue to talk to each other, and they do. Yes. And so they on that particular night where we had those dropouts, we dropped out completely. We were gone from the screen for as long as it took to reboot the computer, because I think on that night my computer just completely crashed, and I had to restart. They stayed talking to each other during that time, and continued the conversation without us. It was kind of like a just talk amongst yourselves kind of moment. So those are some of the exciting, some of the most unexpected, interrupted and broken moments that we've actually had have been some of our best moments, especially that moment when Kelly stole my grey piece from my Lego construction.
And I love it, Chris. I love this. Imagine God asking Job to explain the internet.
Those are the kinds of questions that we deal with. That we want to see that intersection. We need to extrapolate and fanfic our faith as much as we possibly can. I think I just used another word, but fan fiction is where we fill in the blanks, where we actually give people permission to play in the spaces between our text, so that if there's a missing part, we can play with it, we can add it in and build it ourselves.
Such as like we had Doubting Thomas, and so on Monday, and so I said to Will, I'm like, Will, where do you even think Thomas was on the first time? Like, and Will's like, oh, in my fanfic version, Thomas, was getting the fish and chips, and like, so we just went off on that tangent, and it just evokes such a different commentary and space, and that's the power of having conversation, like the power of actually just letting it be a transformative, grace, real place where we actually, Janine, being real and not perfect is okay. Like, what are we really talking about? Like, that's discipleship, like the disciple relationship. Yeah.
And you learn new skills. I just noticed, Kelly, that we've learned new skills. We're looking down at the chat, and we've learnt the skill of reading the chat as we're on and interacting with the people. That we didn't have that when we started. That idea that we've got to keep an eye on, so that when people are commenting and asking questions, we can actually stay on board that and deal with the lag, because that comes later. Sorry, Craig, back to you.
No, it's fine. You two can
breaking us
talk
up,
all day.
I see. Oh, we could.
So, folks, what we're going to do in this last 15 minutes is we're just going to pause and think back over what we've done and let you ask questions. And then we want to have a bit of a conversation about some of our key themes today about community and learning and faith formation and that kind of stuff. So we've shown you 5 different platforms. We could have shown you more, ranging from simple, just log in and you're in there, to much more complex. You'll have seen some different possibilities. Frankly, if you go onto Twitch and explore it more, there's a whole lot more that you haven't really seen yet about how communities work on Twitch. There are some, if you like, Christian ministries on Twitch that are just huge.
Massive.
So there might not be a lot.
And then there's ours.
And then there's yours.
And so a cute one.
Let's just take some questions from the floor for a couple of minutes. What are you wondering about, and not just about the mechanics? You might have some of those, but about how this stuff helps faith formation, helps discipleship.
Totally. While we wait for the question to come in, I'm actually just going to do a plug for Will. In terms of the conversations around faith and fiction, and asynchronous stuff, Will talks so much about the conversations and the middle ground of people's loves in life, such as fiction, in all of his podcasts that he does. And Will has so many. So I'm going to put a link to Will's website. Please go check it out. It's powerful stuff, and people engage in faith and theology with his podcasts and things like that, with his Never Odd or Even work on oddrev.com. So, sorry, Will, I'm just going to plug you.
Yeah, you can also find the Never Odd or Even podcasts on Spotify, if you're on Spotify or wherever you listen to good podcasts.
I'm going to break back in. You two just could talk all the time.
We could. No questions yet.
Well, we haven't got any questions yet. So let's just talk about some things So let me kick in a couple of things.
You ask us a question, Craig. Yeah.
We can. The three of us can talk. I think I want to put the technology thing to one side, in the sense that the things we've looked at have different levels of, easier or harder to access. And that's fine. So one of the things we talked about the other day when we were preparing for this was choose the tool that works for you. So do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah. Even just today, there was such an array of different things that we shared with you all. It's not about doing every single one. It's about finding, or at least looking at, your community and what is going to meet the needs of your community. So, like, we used to broadcast Odd Sonder on both Facebook and Twitch, and at the end of the year, Will's like, why are we even doing Facebook? I'm like, well, you're so right. Like, this is dumb. So we just stopped broadcasting to Facebook. Our community was meeting on Twitch. Why are we going to this extra effort if it's not actually meeting the purpose and the needs of our community? maybe it's a question we need to ask about why are we streaming all of our Sunday morning worship still? I don't know. What is the needs? What are the purposes? I don't know, Will, if you've got any examples or thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I think that flows both directions in terms of need. Like, so, like there's an opportunity to cut down what we're doing. So, but then to direct. So, whilst we stop streaming directly to Facebook and Twitch at the same time, we still put our links to Twitch on Facebook. And so we decided that Facebook would be our sign that points to, and Twitch would be our space for broadcast. And so you could easily do that the other way around. And so it's up to you to actually say, okay, how am I going to manage my social media? How will I use, where do I want to actually put my content? And so for a lot of my content, I use my WordPress site as a hub where I store all my information and then point to it with Twitch and Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. And so it's about looking at the various tools and saying, okay, what do I want them to do for me? How do I want them to be effective? And not try and actually do everything everywhere, but work out what each thing is going to do in each space.
I think for me, some of it's about, this isn't artificial. So you communicate with people through the medium that they're communicating in. If you're if you want to connect with people who aren't on Twitch, don't use Twitch to do it. But don't assume that people are going to come to you. So if I wanted to connect with young adults or young people on Facebook, well, they probably wouldn't want to come and connect with me because they're already doing their own stuff in their own network. So I think.
Now we got a question, Craig.
Yeah.
Can I answer the question?
Yep, sure.
Wendy Snook asked a question about copyright licenses needed for presenting music on Twitch. Twitch has got a really fascinating thing in that you can pretty much get away with broadcasting whatever you want. So it'll go live and it'll work. It's designed to I guess, showcase various things. However, if you have breached copyright, Twitch will remove the sound from the part that is sound on the highlight and on the saved stream. So it'll be missing. Yeah. Facebook is now doing the same kind of thing. So there is a sense in which copyright is a little bit fluid and grey in the Twitch area because Twitch is designed for gamers to show off or advertise by playing the games designed and created by other people. So it doesn't inhibit things from a copyright perspective in the same way. I think that's part of the reason why the 2-week publishing thing actually comes in as well and gets removed 100%. After 2 weeks.
Look, there's a longer answer to that too. I'd be happy to answer that for people as well. But
totally.
From the publishing point of view, the short answer is you've got to contact the music publisher. It's not. It's not about Twitch. That's the broadcast platform. It's actually about the music publisher. So
a great example
because it's an international broadcast, if you like, then that complicates it because you can't go to one company because they most of them don't have global rights for any music anyway. I mean, some do, but most don't.
Other question.
Yeah, go on.
Kelly, tell us about our theme song, though. I think that's an important one.
I'll do it quick.
How we did that,
yeah. Okay, yeah, sure. That is helpful.
So our theme song for Odd Sunder is actually done by Uniting Creatives. So they're one of our amazing music communities, part of the Uniting Church. And so we heard the music, and Amanda Nicholas, who is an incredible minister as well, who just also so happens to be married to Will.
Is she related to Kelly Nicholas?
No.
Yeah, no. I am a sister in Christ to all of the above.
Sorry,
no, you're so fine. So Amanda actually contacted Tash Holmes and asked, can we please use your music? And Tash was like, absolutely, go for it. And so we then set up that connection. And that's a lot of what we do. We're passionate about collaborative work, which is why Will and I work in 2 different churches on different sides of the bay. And we broadcast this community. Sonder Collective is across like 35 different church communities, 7 different denominations. So like we're not here to isolate our work. And that's also, again, to touch on the beauty of online communities. it's actually a gifting ministry. It actually works, which is to do abundant, transformative, missional work, which is just to gift generously. And I think online community, you can't limit it, which is beautiful and scary. But what does that mean theologically? And so a great example of that was connecting like that and looking at what music we're sourcing and resourcing well. So, but I want to touch on that question that Kathy wrote. Is there still a place for Facebook? And Chris, you wrote, depends on who you're trying to engage with. Absolutely. One of the weirdest things, Christians are still using Facebook. Mm-hmm. It's odd. I don't know why. And
it's the trendy new thing. It's the trendy new thing.
It is. And maybe it's because, bless our hearts, the church is always so far behind. And maybe we just haven't gotten rid of Facebook yet. But look, that's where my community be in terms of needing to get information out. And so I will continue to put information there, as well as Instagram, which, they ain't there, but I'm going to put it there because it's good.
I'd use MySpace if it was still around, we could get to it. So. But just on use and engagement, one of the dangers, I think, in terms of digital ministry and digital use from the church is history tells us that we colonize new worlds. We go to these places and we superimpose who we are. If you're going to use a platform like Facebook or Twitch or Twitter or whatever, you should spend some time there just having a look around, see what the people do there, listen to how they act. Recognize that if you write a 1,000-word essay in a Facebook post, no one's going to read it, and it's going to look out of place inside the Facebook community. Most of the Facebook posts are very small. Most of the Facebook posts will include a meme or a GIF or something like that. It's a good idea if you want to start using Twitch to get onto Twitch and surf around, have a look at the content, get to know what's being produced there, and recognize that when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Hang out on Twitch and be a Twitcher. Don't just turn up there and just stream your own stuff.
Sorry, I'm twitching. Sorry. I think the thing I'd want to add is that for me, getting people onto Kiko Chat and even Spatial Chat took a bit of shepherding. Some people just they click and they're in, and other people go, oh, I don't know how to give permission to my camera, or I've lost the password or anything like that. So you do have to, particularly for people who aren't tech savvy, you do have to nurture them into the space, as we had to with Facebook, as we had to with Zoom. So I because I like Spatial Chat, for example. I'll go to the effort of with some groups. So Kelly and I run some committee stuff together. We'll probably go to the effort of saying, look, let's try that together and let's get on there, and we'll shepherd people into that space. Yeah. And Padlet. I use Padlet a lot, and people gradually get used to it. So, I don't think we do expect people to dive in. We help them, and my wife, who would say she's not technological, her Bible study group went online, and they do that at the drop of a hat now. We all know that. So
totally.
There's some intentionality. I guess I'm saying there's some intentionality about it too at a leadership level.
And I think that also comes to, I think we forget, people get that way even just about microphones in an offline space, or even I'm an artist. People get that way around holding a paintbrush. And that is such a tangible thing. And so it's when someone doesn't feel a native to a space, this is their innate gifting, they feel vulnerable and nervous. And that's the power of leadership. This is where we come into it. We actually offer an intentionality, which is what you're saying, Craig. We need to really take that leadership role and go, how do we nurture a comfortable space for people to feel they can contribute and engage?
And exercise patience, kindness, self-control, compassion, all of these wonderful fruits of the Spirit, they all could be exercised in this space too. One of the things I want to say about comfort and comfortableness is that being in the digital space is actually a real opportunity for you to learn, if you're not comfortable, what it feels like for people who don't normally come into your church building to come into your church building. All the feelings of discomfort and awkwardness and uncertainty about how to behave, what to do, where to be. They're all the experiences that people feel, regardless of how welcoming we are, when they first enter into the physical spaces. And so there's a learning opportunity for you to actually go, okay, what do I need when I feel that way? How can I offer that to other people?
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
Will, based on what Janine's just asked, and Janine, I know we haven't got to your inclusion question yet, so maybe we'll come back to that in a moment. But some years ago, I went to an education conference which had I went to a session on online learning using avatars. So an avatar is like you're what's an avatar in a sentence?
Any representation of you in a digital space.
Representation of yourself. So they had students from all over the country who would enter a space where there would be a figure that represented them. And they talked about they were sitting around in a group and someone expressed some sadness, and I can't remember if it was the teacher or one of the students took their avatar around to sit next to that person's avatar. And it's like spatial chat. If I see Kelly sitting there by herself in a room, in a lounge, and take my little avatar, which is my picture of me, over and sit next to her, that actually feels different. And they said they did research on this in the seminar I went to about what's the value of online learning. They said, and the person said, I actually felt that you were coming over to comfort me. So while we might be in different rooms, that physical representation, again, is different from the flat screen of Zoom, where we can't really move around or get near to people. It's just, like the Brady Bunch all day. So we get something different in that three-dimensional space, which I think I really like. Hope that's helpful. Folks, we're going to have to finish, and I appreciate, thank you, Glenys, for that comment. Can you?
I know, thank you, Glenys.
Can you just say a bit about inclusion, because you do run a broad community, and we're not talking about technological inclusion here, but the notion of inclusive community. How does that work for you?
Yeah. So I'll touch on it really quickly. For me, I suppose this is coming a lot to my personal theology, and so please note that I'm speaking personally here. I deeply believe that I don't really mind what anyone's theology is, as long as it doesn't demean, hinder, or diminish another person's value to another person, nor how God sees them. And we make that very clear when we meet together, as long as we actually speak in wholeness and abundance and grace with each other. So we have made it abundantly clear every time we meet that we start with an acknowledgement of country. And we do that because when we speak about what's holy, it's important to start that holiness has been spoken about in this land, in this place for thousands and thousands of years. And that already sets the tone of what people are expecting. We don't shy away from talking about things about colonization. We don't shy away from talking about the sheer fact that Will and I are darn white. And so we need to address the fact that we are coming from a very privileged space, just in conversation. We don't shy from the fact that we are learning individuals, and we can be called out, and people can call us out when we do wrong. So I suppose a lot of what we do about keeping ourselves an inclusive and open community is recognizing that we can do wrong too. And our job as a whole community is to keep one another accountable. And that in itself leads a level of being welcomer and welcomed, and people feel safe because they know that they're not coming at it where there is someone who's going to be a top-down approach of condemnation. They are welcomed into this space as equal leveler too. And a great example, Will, do you want to share your background picture? Just a simple thing like that.
So I've just switched to the trans version of the trans flag, and so there are simple things that you can do to live your faith large. You can be boldly inclusive, and I think tone is that good word. Tone is what sets that idea that if we're a wondering, pondering, questioning community, willing to explore the edges of what it means, and that no question is an inappropriate question, then that sets a tone of welcoming and inclusion. A couple of weeks ago on Zombie Church, we had a new person join us. We didn't know them. They popped in. They asked if they could join us. They came into the game. They downloaded the game. They suddenly realized that they were surrounded by Christian gamers, and they had to make a decision as to whether or not they wanted to stay or leave, because they suddenly realized who we were. They decided, but they didn't have a faith of their own. They decided that we were a nice bunch of people and it was worth hanging out with us. And so we then said to them, that's okay, but these are the things. We're streaming live. We don't want expletives. We're looking at these kind of things. So we set some ground rules. We organised the tone, and so that person is a part of our community. So I think that there's that sense of I guess being bold and upfront about just how inclusive it be.
And
Thanks.
In saying that, sorry, Craig, I know you want to wrap up. I just want to say it's powerful. Our community with Sonda, we aren't exclusively a Christian community. We have so many people in our online community who don't profess faith at all, but yet have come in and are deeply active in our faith conversations. And so I laugh because they don't profess faith, but man, do they chat about faith. And I think that's powerful about being inclusive. So
I think what you both just said there is really helpful. I in talking about online discipling communities, if you like, it would be easy to see that as our closed Zoom Wednesday night Bible study, that we're just doing digital media within the church, whereas, any physical gathering that was open to anyone would have the same kinds of issues.
Yep.
So the beauty of the digital is actually we can be more open to other people joining us if we're prepared to do the work on being inclusive ourselves. So the onus is on us, not them.
Yep.
To practice what we preach in that sense of
absolutely.
But
it's risky, it's challenging, but and certainly just one last thing on that just triggered for me was the other night we had some people come into the chat in Odd Sonda. We weren't sure what they were going to say. We weren't sure what links they were going to put in. They wanted to link some stuff. We had our producers ready with their fingers on the button to delete anything that might have actually been inappropriate if it had appeared. So there's this open. There's an open hand and a good set of boundaries are the best ways to be an inclusive online community.
Great. Thank you very much, both of you. Great conversation.
Thank you so much.
We could talk longer, and I really enjoyed this. Thanks, people, for viewing, and this will be available on our YouTube channel. We'll put a link on our Port Phillip East Facebook page, which you're on now, and we'll also put some information on our Port Phillip East website, which is ucappep.org.
And as much, Janine, thank you for an inspiring session, but thank you all for being such an inspiring community to do this session with us, because honestly, I've left inspired, and I hope you all have as well, because it's been so good together.
It would have been very boring without you, absolutely.
Oh yeah,
very much,
definitely.
You too. See you later,
Thanks
everybody.
all.
See you next time. We'll get some more exciting sessions coming up in the next couple of months. See you about them later. So long.
Awesome. Bye.